name is Stephen Wolf Foster, and I am your worship associate this morning. I'm also delighted to welcome Matt Meyer as worship leader. Matt is a musician and worship leader who has led hundreds of services for UU congregations across the country. He has a degree in hand drumming. He serves as a director of community life for Sanctuary, Boston. We also welcome all who are watching online, including Reverend Rebecca. She invites everyone who is watching worship services online to join for a feedback discussion immediately following this service. The Zoom link will be found in your order of service. We come together as a church community, online and in person, committed to love, peace, and justice. Our core values are authentic connection, courageous action, love, spirituality, and wonder. Our mission and our invitation to all of you is to come as you are, journey together in love, act with courage, and transform the world. If you are visiting today or joining us for the first time, welcome. We are glad you are here. To access this morning's order of service, please click the QR code located on the paper in your pew here in the sanctuary, or the link in which you find your reminder email, or in the links just below the live stream for those of you online. Every Sunday we say it's no small thing that we have gathered, and this morning it is a particularly big thing that we have gathered, so let's give ourselves to it. I welcome one and all to our church, to our worship service. Thank you. It is good to be together.
Our call to worship this morning comes from the Siddur of Temple Beth Zion in Brookline, Massachusetts, and their interpretation of Psalm 97. Embedded in my heart, a melody beats, awaiting the conductor's call. I hear it now and again, but only faintly. It disturbs my quest for power with hints of grace. It haunts my dreams of control with intimations of selflessness. It stays my hand lifted in anger, and it calms my heart when I am tight with rage. It whispers to me of justice and sings to me of compassion. It is the song of God, and I shall sing it yet, but not alone. We each bear the song. We each need the choir. Someday the song will rise in our mouths, and we will sing together in harmony. Mountains of discord will melt before us. Idols of ego and tribe and boundary will give way as we weave a song of wonder, celebrating the many and the one. Together, we will sing the world awake, bringing light to the dark places and letting the shadows dance once more. Light is sown for the righteous, joy for those who embrace it, and song is a chariot to both.
Please join us in saying our chalice lighting words as Pastoral Associate Tom Himmel lights the chalice. The words can be found on the online order of service or in the laminated card found in the front of the gray hymnals. We gather this hour as people of faith, with joys and sorrows, gifts and needs. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest, truth and meaning and celebration, the life we share together. Each week we also light 2 candles apiece, representing 2 places on earth that we lift up and remember as a sacred encounter with our world. There are untold number of places on earth that need peace. These 2 we especially hold close in this service and through the week ahead. After each candle is lit, we will speak the words for peace in English, Arabic, and Hebrew. Peace, salam, shalom. Our first candle is lit for Boston, for Amesbury, for our nation's capital, and all the places where women's marches took place yesterday to rally for reproductive rights and the rights of women. Peace, salam, shalom. Our second candle is lit for the front of this property, where the Gender Sexuality Alliance, the GSA, will be meeting after this worship service. GSA, organized by 2 of our youth, is for members of our congregation, welcoming LGBTQ+ folks and allies of all ages to join them. The goals are to create a safe and supportive space, to learn and grow together, and to make change within the community. Peace, salam, shalom. We will now join together for our first hymn, hymn number 298, Wake Now My Senses. To honor the safety of all who are gathered, we ask that those who are in person to take in the music, but refrain from singing, while those participating online can certainly sing. Sing your hearts out. May all our hearts be filled with peace.
We're going to be speaking about singing today. Is the mic not on? You all hear me? Can you hear me all right? The mic might not be on. Should I try it? Try that one. I think that one will work.
Okay.
I think that is. Do we replace this one or replace the batteries?
Let's see.
I don't know that this will work as well for singing, but we'll give it a try. So, for our music today, I do invite you to hum along. And here's your notes right here for this one. You can just stay on one of these 2 notes. And one of the reasons that pop music is popular is that there are choruses and refrains, parts you can sing your heart out along to when you're driving in the car. And that's, if you ask me, one of the problems with hymns. So for this particular hymn this morning, we're going to do an experiment. Are you up for trying something new? We're going to add a refrain, and we'll just hum it. It goes like this. Just those notes. One more. That sounds good. And during the verses, you can just stay on just one of these notes here. have so many hands. Wake now, my senses, and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in all. Keep with the web of creation your vow. Giving, receiving, as love shows us how. Again. Wake now, compassion, give heed to the cry. Voices of suffering fill the wide sky. Take as your neighbor both stranger and friend, praying and striving their hardship to end. Now I invite you to rise in body or spirit. Just because we can't sing out, you can rise in body or spirit. Just because we can't sing out doesn't mean you can't help out with the hymn with some rhythm as well. So you can just play this very simple beat. Here we go, like this. You try it? Again. Wake now, my vision of ministry clear. Brighten my pathway with radiance here. Mingle my calling with all who will share. Work toward a planet transformed by our care. Can we add some more harmonies? Again. Now just the humming. You sound good. Let's take a deep breath in. You may be seated as you exhale.
And now we may, if we feel like it, stand up again. Please rise in body and spirit. Let's join our voices in the affirmation of faith and doxology, for which for the time being we will speak together until it's safe to sing, really sing out loud. The words are in our online order of service or on the laminated cards in the gray hymnal. So we'll start with the affirmation of faith. Love is a doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament. Service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other and with God. From all that dwell below the skies, let faith and hope with love arise. Let beauty, truth, and good be sung through every land, by every tongue.
You may be seated. I'd love to share a story with you all. And I can use your help on the rhythm for this one. This is a story about rhythm, about the origins of rhythm and our origins in rhythm. And so your job is just to play whatever I play after I do it. You can just clap your hands or clap your knees. If you're at home, you can drum on your desk or maybe find an actual drum in your house. Those of you here, the hymnals sound pretty good if you hit them just right. Tell Rebecca I said it though. So your job is just to play what I play. Let's give it a try. Now, this story, like many great stories, begins with words from sacred scripture. Words that come to us from Mickey Hart, the drummer for the Great Dead. St. Mickey once said that in the beginning was noise, and noise begat rhythm, and rhythm begat everything else. Now, the sages say that in the beginning, in the very beginning of the beginning, there was a great big bang, an explosion as big as the universe itself. In that first moment, the universe was tinier than a speck of dust, but faster than you could blink your eye. Space itself expanded to become bigger than everything you could see in the sky tonight. And in that first moment, there was atoms and molecules flying every which way, colliding into each other all over the place. It was chaos and noise. In the beginning, there was noise. But as those atoms and molecules came together, eventually they formed stars and they formed planets. And some of those stars and planets began to gravitate towards each other. They began to move around each other, to orbit each other, to circle each other in perfect time. Time you could set your watch to. Noise had begat rhythm. Now, the spinning of the planets created the rhythms that separated day from night and light from dark. And the circling of the planets around their suns created the rhythms that separated the seasons one from another. And the circling of the moons around at least some of those planets created the rhythms of the tides in and out and in again. Now, some of these planets were so far from their suns that they stayed cold and icy and silent. And some were so close to their suns that they stayed hot and dry and silent. But on at least one of these planets, it was just the right distance from its sun, and things were warm but not too warm. And they were cool but not too cool. And on at least this one planet, new rhythms began to grow. The rhythms of life. There was the rhythms of cells dividing and growing and dividing again. There were the rhythms then of plants growing and seeding and growing again. Eventually there were the rhythms of heartbeats, and there were the rhythms of breath, in and out and in again. And on at least this one planet, there grew animals that looked a lot like you and me. Rhythm had begat everything else. But the people on at least this planet were a lot like the universe which had begat them. Sometimes they circled each other in warmth, moving together in harmony and rhythm. And sometimes they collided into each other in chaos and noise. Now, some of the sages say that all of this happened in only 7 days. But some of them say that today is still the 7th day, that the story is still being written, it is still unfolding, and that it's a story that we are writing together with the universe which begat us. And we can choose to collide in chaos and noise, or we can choose to move together in harmony and in rhythm. For the beauty of the earth, for the splendor of the sky, for the love which from our birth over and around us lies, source of all, to thee we raise this our grateful hymn of praise. thank you for helping me with the story.
Amen. This is the time in our service when the offering will be gratefully received. If you are worshiping in person, we are encouraging you to make your donation online using your mobile device. And we'll be sharing how you can do that in a moment. The generosity of community is an essential ministry that supports the work of our church to live out our values, our mission and ends, both in Newburyport and beyond. Each week, 50% of the Sunday offering, not designated as a pledge, goes to a local community partner engaged in important efforts to transform our region. The October shared collection will support the Greater Newbury Elder Pet Fund, which serves Newburyport, West Newbury, Amesbury, Salisbury, and Rowley. The fund works closely with area councils on aging to identify elders in need, then collects and distributes pet food and financial donations. 100% of the donations go to our elders and their pets. Imagine the pain of having to surrender a pet, a best friend, because you couldn't afford food or veterinary care. It's just not right. Please support our deserving senior neighbors and their loving pets. At this time, we encourage you to make your offering online. If you are viewing the order of service on your phone or on your computer from home, there is a link you can click in the order of service or the video description where you can make your contribution. You can also text a contribution by sending the word GIVE FRSUU. That's one word, GIVE FRSUU, to the number 73256. That's the number 73256. If you prefer to make an offering by cash or check, you can take the time to fill out the information as the music is playing. There will be baskets that you can use as you leave the service. You can place it in there. And of course, you can always mail a check to the church at any time. This is the time in our service where we lift up the joys and sorrows of our beloved faith community. Tom Himmel will light the candles as I read what has been shared with me in advance of today's service. We light a candle of joy for Jim and Nancy Kidd, who are so happy to share their wonderful news that their first grandchild, Emily Kidd, is marrying her high school sweetheart, Andy Mateague, this weekend. We light a candle of sorrow as Ann Mulvey shares that her brother-in-law, Bill O'Neill, died unexpectedly on Thursday. Please keep Ann's spouse, Donna O'Neill, and our extended family in your hearts. And we light one final candle for all the sorrows, all the joys that, although unnamed, are just as important and held in our hearts.
Spirit of love that is within us and between us, be with us as we are with each other this morning, bringing our whole complicated lives. Some of us arrive here full up of blessings this week. Blessings we didn't earn, blessings that we don't know where they came from. Blessed with friends and family and small glad joys. Some of us arrive here this morning with the weight of loss on our hearts, thinking of those who can't be with us, struggling with illness, weighed down by grief. Spirit, be with us as we are with each other in the all of it, holding one another's burdens gently, that they might be lifted, or at least a little lighter, celebrating each other's joys, the gratitudes small and large, that they might be magnified. Together we will sing the world awake. Spirit, be with us as we are with each other, seeking to move in rhythm, to move in harmony together, to do together what we could not do alone, grounded in love, full of gratitude. May it be so, and may we make it so. Amen. In 1958, Jamila Jones, a 14-year-old African-American girl, attended a training for racial justice activists at the Highlander Center in Tennessee. She was there attending with her sister and dozens of other youth, learning about community organizing and activism. Now, the Highlander Center was a focus of union organizing in the 30s and racial justice work in the 50s and 60s. It was an influential community for folks like Dr. King and Rosa Parks. Incidentally, and by accident, it's where the song "We Shall Overcome" entered the civil rights movement. And because it was such an effective community for organizing for racial justice, the United States government harassed them constantly. At this particular training in 1958, this training of youth and young people, the police entered and raided the facility. The first thing they did was off all the lights to the retreat center, plunging the whole community into pitch darkness. Jamila remembers the terror of being suddenly in the dark, feeling lost and alone. All she could see were the silhouettes of police billy clubs waving in the air and guns on their hips, coming for these teenagers. She was so scared. She wanted to know where her sister was, where her people were, but she couldn't see hardly anything except the violent police. In this moment of confusion and darkness, this moment of terror and uncertainty, someone sang out a familiar melody, but with new words that they added just in that moment. In this moment of terror, someone sang out, "We are not afraid. We are not afraid." The activists scattered across the rooms joined in immediately. And by the singing, they located each other. Jamila heard her sister's voice and knew finally where she was. And she heard the deep bass voice of another friend and knew where he was. One of the policemen came over to Jamila. She could see that he was shaking with fear. And he said to her, "If you have to sing, do you have to sing so loud?" Call and response singing was a staple of the civil rights movement. And so in this moment of police violence and terror, someone new called out into the darkness with song, and the community knew to respond. They literally found each other in song. Even in the darkness, Jamila said, our voices blended that night to the point of complete harmony and beauty. This is call and response, how to find each other when we are lost. This is how we remind each other that we are in this together, and we are part of something each larger than ourselves. We each bear the song, we each need the choir. Pete Seeger used to say that a good song reminds us what we're fighting for. "Help me sing this one," he would say. What are the songs that give us courage today? Because Lord knows we need some courage for these times. In the spirit of community singing, in the spirit of finding each other in song, I worked with a group of folks a few years ago to form the first Unitarian Universalist Song Leaders Convergence. Every year, the UU Musicians Association has an annual music conference, and this Song Leaders Convergence is now embedded within that larger gathering. It's a week of call and response, a week of Unitarian Universalists moving together in rhythm and harmony, teaching each other songs and song leading. And one of the songs that has most stuck with me since that first gathering that I learned there is by Nalini Stamp, a community organizer. It goes like this, and I invite you to hum along. The people will rise, 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 the people will rise. Can you try humming that? The people will rise, 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 the people will rise. Why are we in this situation that brings us down? Can't you see we are losing patience, we are losing patience with oppression now. Here we go. The people will rise, 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 the people will rise. We have come to raise our voices, for the broken down. You and me, we will stand together, we will stand together on common ground. The people will rise, 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 the people will rise again. The people will rise, 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 the people will rise. One of the fundamental mysteries of human history is why we Homo sapiens are still around and our Neanderthal cousins aren't. We didn't evolve from Neanderthals, we evolved alongside them, and so folks are trying to figure out why we made it and they didn't. Now, Neanderthals were likely bigger than us and stronger than us. So it wasn't physical brute strength. Some folks think that Homo sapiens were smarter, but recent research suggests that that probably wasn't true. Neanderthals were probably about as smart as chimpanzees, and for the most part, human beings are not smarter than chimpanzees, inherently at least. We don't win at most basic tests of intelligence, except for one very special category. There's one kind of intelligence where human beings are the reigning champions. We are the very best at learning from each other. If you want a society to survive and thrive, the scholars say, it's better to have a group where only 1 in 1,000 people invents a fishing pole, but everyone else in the community is capable of learning how to use it, than it is to have a group where 1 in 10 invents a fishing pole, but they keep it to themselves. Researchers call this social learning. And social learning, they say, is our superpower. Now, as someone who's watched just about every movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, I want to add that to call social learning a superpower is perhaps an understatement. We've outcompeted most of the Marvel superheroes, I would say. X-ray vision, we invented it. Flying in the air like a bird, we figured that out. Human beings learned how to make electricity out of water and out of sunlight, and how to explore faraway planets. Check, check, check. And we did it all by teaching and learning together in community. But you all know this. If you're great at playing Dungeons and Dragons or chess or pickleball, it's probably because you spent some other time with human beings learning the game. If you're great at music, it's probably not because you invented a fancy new instrument no one had ever seen before. And it's not because you invented a new chord progression. They've all been done. It's because you spent time with other musicians, learning from their ideas and combining them in new ways. And here's the thing. Social learning isn't just about science and technology and fishing poles. Spiritual growth also something that we learn in community. What is true of science is true of spiritual growth. We have something to learn from each other. Now, some folks describe themselves as spiritual but not religious, which often means spiritual but without community. It takes some mental gymnastics, though, to spend our whole lives learning from others in our profession or in our hobbies or in our art, and then turn around and say that spiritual maturity is a solo climb, something to be done in isolation. Spiritual growth is something we teach each other through the technologies and tools of our tradition, through the wonderings and learnings together in community. My dad passed away 2 years ago, and when that happened, I didn't want to hear from anyone else that they knew exactly how I felt. The mix of emotions was complicated, the loss was huge, and like every loss, it was unique. But at the same time, I was comforted to know that I was not the first human being to experience this kind of grief. Being in spiritual community with others who had experienced loss is where I learned to make small rituals out of remembering. It's where I learned to spend time with pictures and tell their stories. Where I learned to wonder aloud about what was and what might have been, and how to balance journaling and tears with Netflix and other distractions. It was also in religious community that I learned to sing in times like this. And so I knew to sing to my dad in his last days. Sitting with my mom by his bed, we sang to him over and over the same song for 48 hours straight. Loosen, loosen, baby, you don't have to carry the weight of the world in your muscles and bones. Let go, let go, let go. It made such a difference for my wounded heart as we held his hand and kept vigil by his bed. When words are insufficient, a melody can sometimes help carry the weight of a moment. I don't believe there are right or wrong ways to grieve, but I believe that when you are lost in the wilderness of loss, religious tradition, spiritual community can offer some markers to find a path forward. And song has always been one way that we find each other when we are plunged into the darkness and uncertainty of grief. We find each other in song. This is the story of how we became human. We created spiritual technologies and we taught them to each other in community, learning and growing together. We taught each other to grieve when the weight of loss is too much to bear alone. We taught each other to sing when words failed. And we called out into the darkness of an uncertain world, and we responded to one another in harmony. The creation story of humankind is that we created ourselves by listening and learning together, looking back to our roots and our traditions, and imagining forward to future possibilities. Lately I've been thinking about roots and wings. Lately I've been thinking how I need these things. Roots in the ground to keep me strong. Wings on my back so I can fly on home. Lately I've been thinking about roots and wings. Lately I've been thinking how I need these things. Roots in the ground to keep me strong. Wings on my back so I can fly on home. Lately I've been thinking about roots and wings. Lately I've been thinking how I need these things. I need roots in the ground to keep me strong. Wings on my back so I can fly on home. I need roots in the ground to keep me strong. Wings on my back so I can fly on home. Wings on my back so I can fly on home. Music in particular is both the effect and the cause of communities learning and growing together. The poem for our call to worship said, "Someday the song will rise in our mouths and we will sing together in harmony." But the truth is, we've always been singing in harmony together. Music has always played a role in the kind of social learning that made us the cooperative creatures we created ourselves to be. Whether humans were working together to build shelter in rhythm, or coordinating movement to attack a woolly mammoth, or just dancing together to appease or maybe celebrate the gods, music helped us remember that we are each a part of something larger than ourselves, a central tenet of social learning. And so this is also the challenge of our time, to recognize that we are in this together, to recognize our interdependence, to find each other in the darkness of an uncertain future. This devastating year of fires and floods is a reminder that climate chaos is not concerned with our made-up borders. This has been a year of struggling to survive a global pandemic, which is painfully vivid evidence of our interdependence. In the neighborhood in Boston, where I live, a few years ago, a fossil fuel company came to town to put a new pipeline through our streets. Now, local officials all over Boston had opposed this dangerous pipeline. But fossil fuel companies, we know, are often more powerful than democratically elected governments, and so despite the opposition of every local government official, the pipeline went in. I was part of a series of protests at the construction site. Every week we would gather and stand in the way of the construction equipment, forcing them to turn off the engines for a little while at least and wait for the police to take us away. Over the course of several months, 150 people were arrested protesting this fossil fuel infrastructure of death. Local neighbors and clergy, activists of all ages. One particular gathering there at the construction site has stuck with me. A year earlier, in the summer of 2015, cities in Pakistan were caught unaware by a devastating heat wave that caused thousands and thousands of deaths. So in 2016, a year later, the Pakistani people were preparing for climate change by preemptively digging mass graves. One grave digger who was interviewed said, "Thanks to God, we are better prepared this year." Too many of our officials, too many of our leaders think that this is the best we can do. This is the best we can do to prepare for climate change, to dig mass graves preemptively. So as people in Pakistan were digging long, narrow ditches to serve as mass graves for the future victims of climate change, in Boston, the fossil fuel companies were digging long, narrow ditches to cause that climate change. And so we gathered and we laid our bodies in the ditch alongside the pipeline. We sang together over and over. We sang as a reminder of our interdependence. When the world is sick, can't no one be well? But I dreamt we were all beautiful and strong. We sang to give each other courage. Courage, my friend, you do not walk alone. Every week we gathered and we sang. Every week we shut the equipment down for a little while at least. Eventually, my understanding is that while that pipeline was completed, the company responsible for it gave up on coming back to New England. It was too difficult for a number of reasons. I hope I was part of that difficulty. There was singing at the Keystone Pipeline as well. Every morning, I was told water protectors would sing songs of water, sing songs of the river as they gathered at the banks there. A recent UN report on climate change just a few weeks ago issued a code red for humanity. So what does it mean for people of faith to call out and find each other in this moment of uncertainty? What does it mean to call out and then respond to each other in harmony, working together for something more beautiful? We each bear the song. We each need the choir. Yara Allen, a lead organizer and song-leading theologian, is part of the Poor People's Campaign, and she reminds us that music has the power to shift the atmosphere. I think she was talking about the atmosphere in the room, but I hope music has the power to shift the atmosphere so that we can shift the atmosphere. This is the story of how we became human. We created the spiritual technologies and we taught them to each other in community, calling out and responding to one another in beautiful harmony. The creation story of humankind is that we created ourselves by listening and learning together. With our songs and our stories, with our music and our conversation, we made us who we are, and we can make the world anew together. Spiritual community shouldn't be about finding identical spiritual paths. It shouldn't be about believing identical things. It should be a place of social learning together, learning how to be together, learning how to make the world anew together. It should be a place where we learn, love, and do justice together. a place of call and response. May we find each other in song, beloveds. May we call out to one another and respond in beautiful harmony. May we together sing the world awake. Our closing song is Let the Life I Lead. The song that I originally heard was a traditional Irish folk tune, but it seems that it more likely came from a 70s R&B group here in the States. Whatever its origins, I invite you to hum along. Let the life I lead speak for me. Let the life I lead speak for me. When I come to the end of the road and I lay down my heavy load, let the life I lead speak for me. Let the life I lead speak for me. Let the life I lead speak for me. When I come to the end of the road and I lay down my heavy load, let the life I lead speak for me. Let the work I do speak for me. Let the work I do speak for me. When I come to the end of the road and I lay down my heavy load, let the work I do speak for me. Let the friends I have speak for me. Let the friends I have speak for me. When I come to the end of the road and I lay down my heavy load, let the friends I have speak for me. I invite you to rise in body or spirit. You can clap along. Feel free to just play this most basic rhythm or add something more interesting. This is yours to do. I invite you to hum along. You can just stay on this one note if you want. Let the songs I sing speak for me. Let the songs I sing speak for me. When I come to the end of the road and I lay down my heavy load, let the songs I sing speak for me. Let the love I share speak for me. Let the love I share speak for me. When I come to the end of the road and I lay down my heavy load, let the love I share speak for me. One more. Let the life I lead speak for me. Let the life I lead speak for me. When I come to the end of the road and I lay down my heavy load, let the life I lead speak for me. Let the life I lead speak for me. I invite you to join in the unison benediction. May the love which overcomes all differences, which heals all wounds, which puts to flight all fears, which reconciles all who are separated, be in us and among us, now and always. Beloveds, Someday the song will rise in our mouths and we will sing together in harmony again as we have always done. We can choose to move together in harmony and move together in rhythm. Go forth in harmony, go forth in rhythm, and go in peace, and go and be blessed as you are a blessing to others. May it be so.